Thanks for tuning in again. I am Matthew Gage, pastor here, as I'm recording here in my office at Faith Baptist Church, and this is our daily Bible study. We're going to be in Genesis chapter number 5 today, Genesis chapter number 5. And when I began to kind of think about doing this series and thinking about, where to start, and thought about doing, just a random book of the Bible. I thought, well, let's start in Genesis. That'd be good. In the back of my mind, I thought eventually I'm going to get to some genealogies, whether that's in Genesis or if we keep this going, if this experiment just keeps going on, we're going to get to passages where there are a bunch of names I can't pronounce. And lo and behold, we have reached one of those chapters. I shall do my best. But the Texas tongue and ancient names do not mix. I will do my best. So where we have here, we'll pick up here in Genesis chapter number 5. And this is the history of mankind. And what's lost, I think, in perspective when you look at this, is that there is something like 2,000 years of history right here in chapter number 5. There's just so much that goes on we do not know about the pre-flood world. And this is just a great example of that. So we'll hit these high points here and read through this. So if you want to follow along, we'll be in Genesis chapter 5. We'll begin verse number 1. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. So we go back, what's the very beginning for mankind? God created Adam. Verse number 3. And Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness after his image, and called his name Seth. And the days of Adam after he begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And we'll pause. We'll go and read verse number 5. We'll finish Adam. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. Let's pause right here. I want to talk about a thing or two. First off, I want us to look at these very lengthy lives that these people have. Now, people nowadays look at that and say, well, that's ridiculous. If somebody lives to 100 and 110 or something like that, I mean, they're considered ancient by today's standards. Yet we have here in this chapter these extremely long lives. Well, we say extreme, but honestly, you compare it to these others, and they're pretty average, I suppose. So how do we understand that? How do we make sense of that, these long years? Were they wrong? Are these exaggerated? Sometimes cultures have a tendency to inflate the prowess, the greatness, and even the ages of their predecessors. I don't believe that's what's going on here. You'll have to remember that the earth was created a very perfect place for mankind. I think a perfect greenhouse type environment for animal life, for plant life, for humans to even exist. And we talked a little bit about creation science in the first couple of chapters. You can go look at some of the theories on that. There's some very, very interesting things out there. So I think in that perfect environment, people were living quite a bit longer. May have even been, some theories say that they were even quite a bit larger, which is also true. I've been and looked at, I was just thinking, I've been to the Texas Civil War Museum, and I've seen they've got a bunch of uniforms on display. And I'm looking there, and I'm big, I'm overweight, but looking at those, I think, my goodness, my kid in middle school could wear that uniform, and that was an adult's uniform. Why were people so much smaller 150 years ago? Well, nutrition and the medical sciences have come so far. And nowadays people are so much larger, we're living a lot longer, the average age is going up. Why is that? It's because, the medical sciences have come so far, and we know so much more about proper nutrition, and food is so much more abundant and proper food and nutrition. And so we've already seen a bump in the average lifespan of man, just even comparing it over the past 2,000 years. If you chart that out, I mean, it's on the rise. And that's just through proper nutrition. But can you imagine if the environment was perfect? If you can imagine if everything was fine-tuned for the human body to exist? And I think that's largely the way the world was pre-flood, was that it was just a perfect environment for mankind and these animals to exist. Now, at this point, of course, after the fall, it is broken by sin, but I still think that pre-flood, it's a very, very different environment, and that's part of the reason, probably a large part of the reason we see these extreme ages. So just want to address that really quick. Let's see, we're in verse number 6. And Seth lived 105 years and begat Enos. And Seth lived after he begot Enos 807 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. Verse 9. And Enos lived 90 years and begat Canaan. And Enos lived after he begat Canaan 815 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. Verse 12. And Canaan lived 70 years and begat Mahalalel. Close, I hope. And Canaan lived after he begat Mahalalel 840 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. And Mahalalel lived 65 years and begot Jared. And Mahalalel lived after he begot Jared 830 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahalalel were 895 years, and he died. Verse number 18. And Jared lived 162 years and begot Enoch. And Jared lived after he begot Enoch 800 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. Verse 21, we're going to get a little break in this rhythm here. And Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begot Methuselah 300 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God and was not, for God took him. This is a mysterious thing, and this is something that there's some speculations, different ideas on, is that, of course, we see Enoch, he's only living, just 300 years compared to the 900, 800 we're seeing others. So something happened to him. He's taken out sooner. It says that he walked with God and that God took him. So the general conservative thought on that is that God took him on into heaven, that he was translated into heaven. So the God took him on early. He did not necessarily die, but God took him home early. So that's the general thought, which is very interesting, has some interesting implications. And I'll tell you that the ancient Jews had a high respect for Enoch, that somebody could walk with God, and God said, hey, come on home. I heard a preacher use an illustration one time that said Enoch and God would walk along, and that one day it was getting late, and God says, Enoch, why don't you just come on home with me? We're a lot closer at home to my home than we are to yours. And they just took him on home to heaven. I always liked the beauty of that illustration. Don't know if that's how it worked or not, but that's just a wonderful illustration that I liked. I've always heard it as a little kid, and that's always stuck with me. All right, verse number 25. And Methuselah lived 187 years and begot Lamech. And Methuselah lived after he begot Lamech 782 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. 969 years, so that's the oldest recorded age that we have. So we talk about somebody being old as Methuselah. That's where it comes from. Now, there's also an interesting note in his name, and I'm not wanting to get bogged down in all the names. I love the little name meanings and things. But my understanding of the word Methuselah, and I think I've got this right, is that his name means basically, with my death, judgment comes. Something along those lines. So Enoch, who walked with God, had a child, named him this prophetic name. And if you go through here and you build a timeline based on all these ages, because it says they were so old, then they begot a son, and they lived so long, and then that son was so, you can build this timeline out. If you do so, I've never personally done it, but I've seen people that have done it, Methuselah's death corresponds with the year of the flood. So it does appear that Methuselah's very life, very existence, every breath he took was a countdown to the judgment of God coming. So very interesting. You can study that out. That's an interesting little thing. I may not be able to hit everything in here, but I like to give you a little something to chew on, something to maybe do a little homework and study for yourself. That's a very interesting thing to study on. Okay, well, let's see here. Verse number 28. And Lamech lived 182 years and begot a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed. Noah means rest or comfort here. The marginal notes here in my Bible say. So that when talking about this same is going to bring comfort, well, that's what the prophetic name means. Verse 30. And Lamech lived after he begot Noah 595 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. Verse 32. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So here we've got from this chapter is kind of a bridging chapter. Like I say, it covers about 2,000 years of history, but it also gets us from Adam, the first man, to Noah and Noah's family. And now in the next chapter, we'll get into the story of Noah, of the wicked world, of God's redemption of them, of the destruction of the pre-flood world, and so many interesting things. If you think we're done mentioning creation science, you're wrong, because we're going to talk some more about it, especially here when we get into the next few chapters talking about Noah. So anyway, appreciate you watching. I hope it's been a help and a blessing to you.